Welcome to Business Week, the program that brings you top business stories that made the headlines during the week, including interviews, features, and market data. Welcome. Development Bank Kumi Adesina, he says China is not trying to lead African countries into debt. According to him, Africa today has an average financing gap of $68 billion to $108 billion a year for power, ports, rail and airport infrastructure.
When you look at what it is, I don't think there is a deliberate plan by China to indebt any country at all. I think China is fulfilling a very important role, which is in terms of infrastructure support, where infrastructure is still a challenge in terms of financing infrastructure. The continent still has a challenge. The issue of quality infrastructure is very important, and that is at the heart of our engagement with the government of Japan.
Mr. Adesina also added that Japan and China should play complementary roles in filling a massive funding gap for African infrastructure.
I don't see a competition at all. I see complementarity. Africa has tremendous amount of needs. Africa has, friends. Africa is a friend of China. Africa is a friend of Japan. Interest and engagement of China and Africa is welcome. And it serves African countries in terms of meeting their infrastructure needs. Well, will I say there were no mistakes made in the beginning? No, I wouldn't say so. There are issues of sensitivity to local communities. There are issues of making sure you don't displace people in the labor market. But these are things, a learning experience, a learning curve for China as it's engaged in Africa.
In the field of agriculture now, Nigeria's seed regulatory authorities are working to ensure proper implementation of the country's new seed law. Deliberations in making this a reality have already resumed in parts of the country. Our correspondent, Lara Afolayan, has details in this report.
Nigeria's seed law, with stiffer penalties for offenders, only recently received executive assent. This development now requires that all seed procurement be done after a no-objection clearance from the seed regulator and other relevant agencies, amongst other areas. This gathering seeks to educate stakeholders on the new seed law.
Going forward, anyone who wants to engage in seed activity must do so with necessary attention to the seed law and obtain the necessary permission from the NASC.
For us, it's one thing to have a bill signed into the law, but more importantly, leaving this place reserved to ensure that everything in this act will see to its implementation and will see to it that Nigeria not only have the right quality of seeds, but will have variety that will bring smile to the faces of our teeming farmers.
A molecular diagnostic laboratory, Nigeria's membership of the International Seed Testing Association, and a seed authentication initiative are some efforts towards eliminating substandard seeds.
I hope that this opportunity that is being given to you, you will use it positively to ensure that we get good seeds for our farmers and we improve on our agricultural production.
Hopes are high here that the country's green alternative agenda could help actualize quality seed production targets. This will in turn transform the seed system into a foreign exchange generating one that grows the economy and creates jobs.
We also deploy technology called the Seed Codex, a turnkey electronic authentication system under which scratchable tags will now be stamped on seed packages. Farmers, upon scratching and sending the hidden number to a number inscribed on the tag, get confirmation as to the quality of seed.
The National Agricultural Seed Management Bill recently received executive assent. The seed law, which repealed the National Agricultural Seed Act 2004, is a framework for promoting and stimulating development of a reliable seed industry in Nigeria.
We now shift focus to the maritime sector now. The absence of an integrated port system is adversely affecting terminal operations at Nigeria's seaports, and in order to tackle the deficiencies, government has been urged to enhance port infrastructure to facilitate trade. TVC News correspondent Ifunanya Eze reports.
The concession of Nigeria's seaports in 2006 defined the scope of development in the area of trade facilitation and faster turnaround time for vessels and port operations in general. In recent years, the degeneration of port infrastructure, like the access roads and the absence of rail network within the seaports, continue to frustrate cargo evacuation. An off-dock terminal wants government to complement its port development efforts by tackling deficiencies in port infrastructure. The worry is that the lapses are incurring losses for operators and port users.
The road that is bad is hurting us. The congestion is hurting us. It's hurting every one of us. And if you see the pressure on our own infrastructure, terminal operators, on the cranes, on the equipment that we need to move around, and what we lose in income is hurting everyone. If we depend on the road alone, even the best of the road today will become deplorable in a few years to come. But if you have the rail, immediately you can evacuate the consignment out of the port.
The issue of haulage trucks and the attendant problems on the ports corridor were also underscored, while the need for adequate regulation has been cited.
If you look at all these trucks, some are 1997, 1990 something that are still coming, and they are not even fit for purpose, and they are still coming. So if the regulators can just come up like NPA, they are doing well, but there are room for improvement. They need to look at all these trucks and segregate the business. Let's know the people that has no business coming to the port at all.
We should have strategic plan of 20-15 years in the minimum, and say that we must be growing this infrastructure at this pace so that we remain as relevant as a nation as we want to be, right? So what do we need to do? We need to invest massively. And this investment has to be mobilized, not only from government, but from also the private sector.
It is believed that more investment will be attracted to the port when the transport system is fully integrated.
In this edition of Business Week, we have reports of the Department of Petroleum Resources sealing off a filling station and 2 illegally constructed petrol stations in Itire and Surulere axis of Lagos State. The Lagos zone of the DPR also sealed 1 gas station in the Ikorodu area of the state for operating under expired license. Details coming up shortly.
The Department of Petroleum Resources has the statutory responsibility of ensuring compliance to petroleum law, regulations and other guidelines in the oil and gas industry. The discharge of these responsibilities involve monitoring of operations at drilling sites, production wells and platforms, crude oil export terminals, refineries, storage depots, pump stations, among many more. This team from the Lagos Zonal Office of the department is on its regular monitoring visit, and a total of 7 filling stations were visited, with 1 sealed and some others decommissioned.
They have never approached the Department of Petroleum Resources for any approval. And coming here during the previous surveillance, we find out that there's no way this particular location can meet with minimum requirement for approval to construct a petrol filling station. Looking at the size of the land, also looking at the location of this land being under high tension.
On the flip side, the gas team of the DPR also moved to the Ikorodu area of Lagos State where 3 gas plants were visited, out of which 1 plant was sealed as it was operating with an expired license.
The storage tank does not have auto shut-off. And the essence of the auto shut-off is to cut off supply in case of emergency. When you are running out during emergency, you just press a button and the gas flow will be cut off and that fire incident will be minimized. Then we notice that they do not have enough water storage and pressure in their hydrant line, and then they do not even have hose reel that can reach the point that they require the water.
The exercise is welcoming. it's a good one, because initially we were scared of the where they will be coming, so we never knew what it would be like. But fortunately, they proved us wrong, so it was a good one. It was quite helpful, and just like they said, it's for our own good and for the good of the users as well.
The DPR says there is no going back in the area of maintaining standards, as they warn operators to always play by the rules or get their fingers burnt.
Now, in order to utilize the nation's population as a resource, unemployed Nigerian youths have been advised to seek ways of starting their own businesses. Young business owners gave this tip at an investment forum in Abuja. We have details now.
Millions of young Nigerians are unemployed. Many have resorted to crime or illegal migration as a way out. But young business owners at this meeting say the unemployed should look inwards and develop their passion for money.
Don't just follow the crowd. What are you personally passionate about? When you figure out what you're passionate about, then you now need to know how much knowledge do you have about this particular subject. So you need to, if you don't have enough, you need to study up a bit more. Then how viable is this particular business that you want to go into? Because there's no point in going into a business that will not be beneficial in the long run.
Low access to finance is a long-time cliche that has stopped many from venturing into enterprises of their own. The young business people here believe that should not be an excuse.
They need to research. A lot of times people are just, they give vague, comments like, oh, there's no funding. You need to research. I know that there's a lot of funding available for small businesses. Take advantage of that.
And if efforts to access government intervention funds are unsuccessful, other investments could be sought.
To function from a work environment, ensure that the necessary licenses you need to get from your trade area, you get those licenses, because SMEs, investors want to ensure that you have done every law. You have ensured that those laws, you follow them through.
But inadequate power supply is one heartache the Nigerian business community grapples with, which appears not to be going away soon.
Micro, small and medium enterprises play a huge role in economic development. This sector of the Nigerian economy accounts for 50% of gross domestic product, but benefits from a very minute fraction of the banking system's total lending. This is believed to have limited its massive potentials in job creation and poverty reduction.
You're still watching Business Week on TVC News. It's time to take a short break. When we come back, we still have plenty more stories from the rest of Africa and the international front. Don't go anywhere. Glad to have you back. Now, let's bring you reports from the leadership of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, as they say its members will continue to maintain safety and standard regulations as set out by the Department of Petroleum Resources. They made this submission when the new leadership of IPMEN Satellite Depot visited the Lagos zone of the DPR.
In the past week, petroleum marketers were unable to load petroleum products for days at the various depots in Lagos State. This was due to pipeline vandalism and other internal issues. This meeting between the leadership of the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria and the Lagos zone of the Department of Petroleum Resources is aimed at proffering quick solutions to these contending issues. Operations Controller of the DPR Lagos, Wole Akinyosoye, says the federal government is on top of the situation, assuring Nigerians of steady supply of products.
The issue of underdispensing is a thing that we need to approach frontally. I'm happy that there are less and less of these cases coming to our table than they used to 2 or 3 years ago. But we still found out that some of your members go and illegally adjust their pumps. DPR wishes to retreat and is beseeching you also to retreat to your membership. That in all the petrol filling stations, 10 liters should be dispensed for 10 liters.
For Ipman, the last few days has not been good for business as internal challenges debarred seamless loading of petroleum products.
We have an issue with our tank 11, and we have the assurance of the management here that whatever they need to do to ensure that that tank is put to use, they will do. The government is encouraging Nigerians to take to the use of gas. And our members are all over the country. We are the only medium through which the federal government can reach every nook and cranny of Nigeria for the use of gas. That's why we have raised the issue here. They are the one that licensed us, and we want them to assist us so that we can operate in the best way possible.
Practically every application for permit and DPR licenses and approval have been migrated on a digital platform. To the extent that you can sit in your room, if you have all your papers and you've done all your technical qualifications, to apply for all of these things for DPR to grant you. But I agree with you, there is no way such will have progressed if you don't have a tax clearance, because revenue generation also is very important to us.
Independent petroleum marketers want the regulators to help address issues around product supply, multiple taxation from government agencies, amongst others.
HENRIETTA Henry, a young lady, has carved a niche for herself in the business of making clothes. She started the business as a hobby she had a passion for, and this has translated into a big-time venture. She has now made a name making ladies' wears. She was inspired to pick this line of business after dropping out from school because she did not have the resources to continue. She has now grown in the business and now has several students training under her.
She was meant to be a lawyer, but she decided to go into fashion design. So,
meant to be a lawyer, like you graduated as a law student?
I just didn't want to finish.
Okay.
I just didn't want to.
But you actually started?
Yes, I started.
So you decided to?
I had to stop because there was no means to further. There was no means. I struggled. The struggling was too much, so I had to just stop. You get? So I got a job, a normal job, a menial job, and so far so good. And I had to even stop the work because I needed to. I've always loved business. I decided to go into back selling. From there, I got a client that linked me to this fashion stuff, and so far so good. I'm grateful.
So now, I believe now you look at yourself like you are grateful to God that you even dropped out from that law.
See, anytime, any day I will drop out and I will go for this.
Since the invention of clothes, people of different ages have dressed primarily to cover their bodies and look attractive, as well as to reflect their different cultures and religions. Cloth is one of the basic necessities of humanity. Tailoring business is one business that is not affected by the economy because no matter how expensive they are, people will always buy clothes. The business is gradually evolving from what it used to be in the past when tailors only make traditional attires. Even sewing machines have now been modeled to make the job of the tailors easier. Today, tailors go as far as mixing traditional and Western styles to come up with something new. Instead of ordering ready-made dresses, end users now prefer buying clothing materials and getting fashion designers to come up with designs. People are buying clothes daily and making varied styles or patterns from them.
I prefer tailor-made clothes. Tailor-made clothes are more expensive. And with tailor-made clothes, you get what you want. Already made clothes, you really don't have options. It's just however it is, you take it. But with tailor-made clothes, you choose how you want your clothes to look.
The new trend and lucrative nature of the business has now made it open for many young people to build a career in it. Muri Praise is one designer who ventured into the business to satisfy his crave for fashion. Seeing how lucrative the business has become, he decided to major in it.
I actually went into tailoring to learn how to make my own clothes, my own wares, not for the public, commercial purpose or for the public, but along the line, when it started coming in, and I had to just do more of it. Yeah, so subsequently, had jobs coming in, then my sisters as well too, started supporting as well, other friends, references, and
just like Muri, other fashion designers agree that the business is lucrative and pay their bills.
Before it was just normal, but in a month I can't say, you know why? It can put food on your table. It can pay your bills. It can pay it can pay your bills and the bills of others as well. And I know, like in a month, I know how many clothes we make. In a day, sometimes we make like 8. We make like 9, 10, depending on what we have on ground. But there's always job to be done.
You look at how much you've made in a month after expenses, taking out money for tailoring materials and transportation, deliveries, like every other expenses you need to take care of, like your lights, your fuel if you have to use generator and things like that. When you have the right customers, it does pay bills. It's not an easy job though, but at least it does, at least keeps your mind busy, keeps the accounts beeping. And
the craft of sewing clothes requires so much skills, from sketching the styles to cutting the fabric and even to putting the pieces together. All these require so much.
Many delve into the business without a first-hand knowledge of the skills. They set up the business and get skilled tailors to manage them. With the new trend of tailoring in Nigeria, many believe that the Nigerian fashion industry has come to stay and is slowly gaining international acclaim.
Lastly, in Business Week now, small-scale business operators want assistance from the authorities to improve their operations. They lament their inability to benefit from intervention schemes critical to business growth.
Farming a lot.
This man has managed to grow and sustain his farming business, for which he used his savings as startup capital.
Farming, I just started from 100 by 100 piece of land I had, and used it and farmed one of the years, and I got interested in it, and I now have about 9 hectares that I did now.
He tells me he has yet to benefit from the trader money scheme or a bank loan.
I'm not really hearing about it in television. I'm not benefiting anything. Nothing. I have no loan from anybody, from bank. If one of the day we approached one of the bank to give us loan, their rules and regulations was too cumbersome that at the end of everything, you are just serving bank.
Mr. Daniel is one of several artisans benefiting from a private sector soft loan scheme. The facilitators read out conditions.
It is difficult enough for artisans to have access to money. Now, if the opportunity therefore presents itself for members to be supported, so if you pick your money, the earlier you pay, the better for somebody else.
Beneficiaries of this credit support are happy, but feel government's financing assistance could make a huge difference in their businesses.
We need government to empower us through loan, through training, to support us so that we see that technology is growing every day by day. We need to leave analog mechanic to digital.
Low access to finance, infrastructure, and lack of adequate skills are some problems of small business growth in Nigeria. These artisans present here want the newly inaugurated cabinet to find urgent ways of addressing these problems.
Well, that's it on this edition of Business Week. I leave you now with graphic details of the commodities market. I'm David Alabi. Make it a date next week.